On this podcast, we go on a phone call with MarkMetry, and he straight up lays down some straight
like every word fire. He said was just knowledge that you need to hear.
Yeah, it's crazy. So he's actually featured in the top 100 podcast currently.
Yeah, for Humans 2.0 is his podcast.
Yeah, so definitely check his podcast out because it's a lot of good stuff there. And literally,
and it's a daily podcast.
Yeah, it's a daily podcast. And literally, what we talked about was just entrepreneurship being a buzzword, the importance of meditation, and how it actually gives you more time while you're taking the time to meditate, which is crazy.
Interesting concept.
And one more thing.
Probably really valid. We're going to check it out.
Yeah, and then one more thing that Mercer's going to add.
We also talked about maturity. This guy is only 21 years old. He started his whole business life at the age of 13 on YouTube, streaming video games.
Yeah.
And then creating a Minecraft server and becoming the number one Minecraft. It's insane. So just talking about age and maturity.
Yeah, and now he gets paid to go around the world
and speak
and talk to people about like life and stuff. So the fact that we were able to get him on this podcast, like I think this is podcast number 9 or 10, I don't know. I have to check, but whatever podcast number this is, just blows our mind because we're like still new to the game, but. It's crazy, and he himself has interviewed some really dope people, like the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That's like
Seth Godin.
Yeah, Seth Godin. Like he's a dope dude. He's definitely gonna be doing some big things. So
he's already doing big things.
Yeah, and just the fact that he's like super humble is awesome. I always enjoy it.
And ready to take a phone call from complete strangers.
Yeah, we told him about like the coconuts and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, that's dope. I would love to have some coconuts." And we're like, "Say less, fam. We got you."
Say less.
But so that was that, and enjoy this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Coconut.
Fire.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Roberto Guido.
And my name is Marissa Lewis.
And together we are
the Dos Cocos Locos.
And welcome to our podcast.
So our goal with this podcast is to drop as much coconut fire, which is our way of saying life/business knowledge bombs, for creatives that don't necessarily know much about life or business, through conversations with one another as well as with other fellow creatives and dope people.
Our story has a lot of twists and turns, but basically we started by selling coconuts at the beach, and now we have our own photography and videography business. And it's through these conversations that we were able to really learn how to navigate this thing called life. Enjoy.
Here we go.
He's going.
Hello?
Hey, it's MarkMetry.
Hey, what's up, Mark?
I'm doing awesome. How are you guys?
Good,
man. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much, dude, for just taking the time to do this like little podcast / phone call with us, dude. We appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, of course. How long have you guys been doing this for?
So this is literally our 8th episode.
Yes.
So just about 2 weeks now into it.
Yeah, and we've only dropped 3 of them so far. Our 4th one drops today. So we're excited.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to be a part of your... Am I the 9th one?
Yes.
Yeah, you're number 9.
Awesome. Sweet.
That's cool, man. So I kind of already told you a little bit about us, but just in a nutshell, we started off by selling coconuts at the beach. Literally, the coconut tree was right outside our house, and we just cut them down and like just sold them at the beach. And then we did like the whole adult stuff. Like I was a teacher. Marissa was working a job in Craigslist. And then we realized like there has to be more to life than this. So then that's kind of how we started dabbling into cameras like photography, videography, and now we have our own photo and video business. So that's a little bit about us, man.
Awesome. I love coconuts.
Hey, dude.
Good. We were worried for a second there.
That's awesome.
Coconuts are my favorite.
That's funny, man. One question that we kind of like start off every podcast with, just to get the ball rolling, is this question, which is, in one sentence, Mark, what would you say, like, how would you define what you do? It could be as long as you want. It could be as long as you want, yeah.
It can be a run-on.
Trying to learn, put my best foot forward every day while constantly growing, challenging, and just trying to get to the next level in life in hope of impacting billions of lives around the world.
Wow.
Dang, that is dope.
That was an incredible sentence right there.
Thanks, guys.
That's perfect, man. So we kind of did a little bit like social media stalking because that's that's just what you do nowadays.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we stalked you hard actually, like really hard.
Yeah. So you're only like 21, man.
Yeah.
Dude,
Wow.
that
I'll be
is
22 in 3 months.
wow.
That's
Happy
crazy.
early birthday, man. That's crazy, bro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm 24. Marissa's 23. And just the overall idea of like age is it's pretty interesting to us because when I was younger, I don't know about Marissa, but when I was younger, when I was like literally in school or something like that, I would see like my teachers and like just my adults that were kind of like in charge of like everything, and I would see them and I would be like, wow, I can't wait to get older because once I do, it's gonna look like I have everything. I'm gonna have my life together, and now that we're like old, I guess, or adults, I see that that's definitely not the case. So I guess my question to you is, what do you think, like, how do you think age and maturity / wisdom plays a role in this day and age?
Wow, man, you really have the gears in my head spinning. Like it's interesting because also when I was younger, I thought the same exact thing.
Wow.
I never actually viewed it in that way. So, yeah, this is always learning, right?
Definitely, man.
Awesome, dude. So, yeah, I think a lot about this, and I think here's the reality. I know 18-year-olds that are, more mature than, like 60-year-old investors.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think the matter of the fact is age is just a number, and there is a tremendous amount of value in experience, having more hours down. But I think that's not necessarily the most successful factor that you should focus on, because somebody can have an experience and not go in the right direction, or maybe put boundaries in front of themselves. And there's a lot of people that have this experience that is negatively working against them. And so I think in that factor, like there's a lot of people out there now that are raising their kids right with the right resources, and kids learn way faster than most adults. There's been many different sorts of studies where they've literally put like second graders alongside like business entrepreneurs, and the second graders won.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like, that's one angle that you could look at it of like, the world is changing really fast. What is being demanded is changing really fast. Like, for me, it's just like, I think that part of my success just really comes from luck, because I happened to be born in 1997 in a very amazing country that gave me a ton of resources. And one of the things that I like doing as like a habit or something that I just sort of was a passion, that ended up being something that was very unique to this time period that would not be happening if I was maybe born like 10 or 15 years ago even. And so it's just like, I think there's a ton of factors at play here, and I think every single person, no matter what their age is, has something to learn from somebody, whether it's a 6-year-old to a 15-year-old or vice versa.
That's true.
That's true. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot of knowledge.
That's
so true. No, that was great. That was so good. Wow. Okay. Goodness, how do I follow that question?
Yeah.
All right. So another question we have for you is that we know that you started at an even younger age than you are right now. You started at age like 14. Is that right?
Yeah.
With like the whole YouTube and the video gaming. We did a lot of stalking. We went deep. And so my question is what's one thing you wish you knew back then before jumping into like this whole like entrepreneurship life? Because it's kind of like the buzzword right now, and everyone's just kind of flowing around that. So what's one thing you wish you knew before kind of going all in and living that lifestyle?
Totally. I mean, well, I think that when I was doing this stuff, when I was like, even how far you stretch it, maybe even 13, 14, 15, when I was doing that stuff, I never really ever, came across the word entrepreneur. Like, it just was not a word in my vocabulary. And to be honest, I was just doing this stuff as sort of like I said, like, it was my hobby. Like, it was just an escape that I could go into. And it was really just, it really served as sort of a coping mechanism for me. And it's like, it's funny because the first time that I actually heard the word entrepreneur, it was when I was in a Huffington Post
Wow.
and the guy called me that. I'm like, wait, what is that?
That's funny.
It was really awkward. It was really awkward, but like it's just interesting. And then it's like once I've actually become aware of it and sort of gotten in this entrepreneurial world, it's crazy. I think it's like it's like there's this quote and it's like entrepreneurship is like a really committed self-development program with a compensation package attached. If
wow,
yeah, and I mean it's something like going to the gym. Like these are like simulations that I think we can put ourselves in that really test all of our boundaries and stresses and force us to grow. It's like being strapped in on a roller coaster.
Yeah. That is very true.
It's just like I think when you look at it that way, and then the other combined effort of like if you have a good intention and you end up getting lucky and working really hard, you can completely change the world. And that's the vision I see it in. It's just like entrepreneurship is just simply a vehicle in the world to make things happen. And I think now, because we have the tools that are so more easily accessible, like just literally having a phone in your pocket, I think that's opened up a lot of doors for people like you and I, and then even getting this technology into the hands of people that don't have resources, like in India, places in Africa. And it's like, that's how we're going to connect the world. That's how we're going to give people the ability to buy and sell, because that's really what it's all about. And, you take a look at what's going on, a lot of like if you talk to a lot of smart people, they'll tell you that one of the biggest reasons for people like not having basic expenses all over the world, like having a place to live, food, clean water, having a job, money, like being in impoverished areas, a lot of people will tell you is it's not because the country is necessarily poor itself, but it's because they just don't have access to mobile banking, and they don't have access to change money and do deals across the world. But I think that's changing. And actually, I don't even know what question you asked me. I don't know how we got down this route. But,
that was great. No, that was perfect. That was a perfect rabbit hole.
Yeah, that was great. Dang. Well, I guess that kind of leads me to like our next kind of question, because like we did the research, we kind of like already know a little bit about like the steps as far as like how you started to where you're at now. But for the audience, can you kind of like just break it down, like Spark Notes style, like how you started to where you're at now?
Yeah, totally. So basically, in basically 2010, I got on the internet. I just started to, learn things. So I think I was about like 12, 13 years old. And, for me, like I'm somebody who grew up in a immigrant family. So, we didn't really have much money. I was very used to, growing up on government housing and food stamps and people donating food to us at our door. And I never really made these connections when I was a kid, but, part of that was like, I ended up going to a school, later on in my sort of adolescence teen that sort of set the environment for me to be able to go on the internet. And, I started learning, I started creating like different kinds of websites, apps, businesses, YouTube channels, all these different sorts of things that like we look at them today. But it's like, you know, the school that I went to, you know, I got bullied. I was basically an all white school. So it was me, maybe like 2 or 3 other people that were not white in the entire school. And you combine that with kind of like, this is kind of like a more, like a wealthier, affluent kind of neighborhood.
Right.
And I was not like that. Like I was wearing the same clothes every day when I was a kid for the most part. And, you know, that just sort of created this kind of like internal narrative that I was just like, you know, against the world, and I had to like fight, and I had to like do all these different kinds of things. It wasn't like a big sort of dream or vision. It was just like very much like a survival mechanism. And it's just like, when you begin to think about it in those terms, like, you know, when I was 13, 14, my YouTube channel had 35,000 subscribers at a time where YouTube wasn't even like the viral YouTube that we know it today.
Wow.
I ended up, when I was 15, I ended up starting the world's #1 Minecraft server.
Yes, I read that.
Which made me a tremendous amount of money. Yeah, which made me a tremendous amount of money, and money that I was sort of never used to. And that actually, you know, when I think about it, that was the point where I just began to like think differently, ask different sorts of questions, because I had already achieved sort of like society's version of success, what I had learned, but I still thought of myself as a loser. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled in my life. And the way that kind of turned out is like I just, as I was getting older, and then eventually when I was like off in college when I was 18, I just, you know, began to shift my worldview. I began to become aware of so many different things. That sort of like put me down an even worse spiral in my life. I was over 200 pounds. I was super depressed. I was even more socially anxious than I was. And when that kind of happened, I kind of hit like my own version of rock bottom. And then what eventually happened is I ended up using that to, you know, sort of propel me forward. Like, it's kind of the analogy of like a bow and arrow. Like, you know, in order to shoot the arrow forward, you have to pull it back. And, you know, it was just sort of that much like of a foundational lesson for me. And I just totally began to like, you know, completely make all the other areas of my life successful, aside from kind of like the financial piece, in which I got lucky on when I was younger. So, yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. I ended up starting like this business and this podcast, and all these different things started to happen to me. I got featured on Forbes. I get to like travel the world now and talk, and people pay me money for it, and all these different kinds of things. But
what a life!
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, because like I'm still a super young guy, and you know, like when I think about the decisions that I've made, you know, like there's a reason why I'm here. It's because I've, you know, woken up every single day ever since like 3 years ago at like 5 a.m. and just try to put myself in a deliberate step forward in my life. And then combine that with, you know, I get to talk to, you know, some of the world's smartest people, like some people out there that are changing the game, that are actually making an impact, that are talking about or have created the best ideas out there in the world. And it's like, if you just combine that level of like human, you know, social connectivity, you know, there's really not much you can't do. Like it's pretty crazy. I think that, you know, life is pretty insane.
It really is. It really is.
Dang, Mark. We do this thing called like coconut fire. It's like our version of like knowledge bomb drops. And literally in that little rant, there's like at least like 25.
I know.
And I'm like, holy crap.
That was so good. That was so good.
Dang, man. Dang. So
You guys are very nice.
Dang, man.
You're just awesome.
Yeah, bro. Like it's crazy. It is crazy how you see it though, because like literally, I don't even know how we kind of started talking. I think it was like through Twitter, right? I think you commented on one of Gary Vee's posts, And then you said something about like a podcast or something. I'm like, wow, we just started our podcast too. Let me reach out to this guy.
Yeah.
And then I saw like on LinkedIn, like you made like 5 reasons why you should start a podcast for your business. And then I read it and I'm like, wow, literally what this guy is saying is what we're seeing right now in our own business.
Yes.
He's literally taking the words out of my mind and onto this like post.
LinkedIn post.
I'm like, all right. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna like pull the trigger and just like throw like a Hail Mary and just say if he wants to be like a guest on our podcast. And like here you are now, bro. It's crazy. Like literally, we see it now. Like we totally believe like whatever you put your mind to, and like you have to be able to suppress those thoughts in your own head where you're like, oh, I don't think I'm good enough, or they're probably never gonna reach out. You gotta like basically ignore those thoughts and be like, you know what, miss me with that, and just go for it. I think that's the key. It's like everything's external, but it's mainly like an internal battle like inside yourself, I want to say.
Yeah, dude, I totally love that. It's like, I am, a big catalyst, like a big influence for me was discovering mindfulness meditation. And I've been doing it literally every single day. And what that enables you to do is like, the podcaster author Tim Ferriss, he had this really great analogy, and he said it's like, when you meditate, and when it comes to your thoughts, and when it comes to that, that internal stuff that happens, what meditation gives you the ability to do, and it's the differentiation between, if there's a storm going on, outside your house, and you can either be in that storm outside in the rain, falling, or, if you meditate, it gives you the ability to, be inside the house and look at the storm and look at the rain, from your window.
Wow.
And it's just like, that's powerful because like, there's only a certain, level of control that you have, and you can't change certain things, and like that's the storm. But if you shift it differently, and the perspective that I like to take of it is like, when you sit down and you try to meditate for the first time, like if you actually do it, like you're gonna think you're going crazy, because if you sit down for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes and you just get to see like your own thoughts occur while you're trying to focus on something, that is going to like show you how basically screwed up you are, and how like you're gonna try to sit down and you'll get a thought that says like, oh, what are you gonna have for breakfast, or what are you gonna say in this meeting to somebody, or like, oh, what if this bad thing happens like at this meeting today, or whatever it is. And it's like you get to see that, and you begin to realize like, oh, my brain is actually just a thinking organ. It's like being on the beach and just seeing the waves continuously crash, like one after the other. It doesn't end. And it's like when you begin to see it in that way, and when you meditate, it then gives you that ability to basically see life from that perspective. So when it does come down to like, whatever it is that you're doing in the day, you're now in the house just looking at the rain, and you're not, getting wet. So it gives you the ability to, keep going, to not be slowed down, to not be distracted. And it's like, people have been meditating for, basically ever since human existence, for thousands, tens of thousands of years. And, today, for good reasons, I think, it's being hailed as like a high performance habit. And that's because it is. It's 100%. I think it's for everybody. Just, it gives you a necessary understanding of self-awareness that I think is just crucial.
Wow. How did you learn how to meditate? Because I know it's definitely like a practice. Like you need to do it several times and really focus your mind.
Yeah, I literally just downloaded an app called Headspace on my phone.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta do it.
I did that last Halloween in 2016. and I was just like on a bus and I was going somewhere and I had an hour to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yo, this app looks cool, Headspace. I'm just going to download it. And I did it. And like, you know, I can't exactly describe what, like, the way, but it's just like, I just felt like my perspective like shifted. Like I just began to see things in a different light. Like I wasn't so reactive, and it's like one of the best ways I can describe like what actually ends up happening when you do meditate is like you're just way more focused. If you you're way more focused. Your ability to like get back on track and, you know, be able to not be reactive. Like it's kind of like, you know, if you're in a conversation with somebody, for me, like when I feel like I haven't, or I like kind of before I started meditating, it's kind of like, you know, you're instantly in the moment. Like if somebody says something to you, you don't know how to react to it. You're just sort of instantly in the moment, and then you just decide on doing something. That could be like a reaction on your face or saying something that you regret. But for me, when I meditate, it feels like the time in which I have to make a decision is like much longer. So I can actually think about it a little bit. I don't even know if I described it right.
No, yeah. I understand what you're saying, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's such a powerful skill to harness.
Wow.
Dude,
sold. I'm gonna check it out.
I always see the ads too. I always see the ads on YouTube. I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, all right, let's go over it.
Wow. All right, Mark. So we don't want to use up too much of your time because we know it's valuable. But we like to end all of our podcasts with this question, which is, what is one thing that you're currently struggling with that someone out there in the universe might be able to help you with?
I think that's a great question, man. So, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, so I have basically gone from somebody that never ever was physically active, never worked out, never played a sport, and like basically I want to say like ever since last year, I began to get really serious about my fitness. I was always serious about my health, but when it came to actually, you know, getting stronger, building a physique, all these different things. And so that's really what I've been working on, man. And it's like, it is a challenge because like I'm doing all these new things. I'm working with like a trainer, and then, you know, my, like, you know, a different part of my body is sore after working like a new muscle, and then trying to find out like how to stretch for that. I've been doing like yoga, which I love doing. And yeah, man, I mean, that for me is really awesome because, you know, what I begin to notice, you know, for me, like I started to exercise just for the pure mental reasons. I think that when you exercise, similar to how, you know, meditating puts you in a simulation, when you exercise, it also puts you in a simulation. And what it's really asking, and what it really does is like, you know, how hard you push yourself, how much more you're able to run one more lap, you know, how much more weight can you lift. I think that's a model that then translates into the real world. And I've seen this effect on myself, and it's like when you can kind of enter in like sort of a exercise simulation like that, like going to the gym or doing something physical, you know, you basically like you wring out the squeegee in you that is like stressing out, that, you know, has all these different sorts of, you know, body and physiological needs and wants that need to be required or need to be fulfilled. And it's like, you know, that's something that I'm really, really trying to work on right now, especially because I know I'm 21, and, you know, what I'm doing right now is like setting the foundation for the rest of my life.
Dang.
Wow. Wow. Okay. You're right.
Please hold while I reset these cameras real quick. Thank you. Also, just check out how I smoothly walk back into the conversation, even after I had to jump out real quick, pause, and restart the cameras. And oh yeah, I just want to take the time, since I edit these podcasts anyway, and I can do basically whatever I want with these. Just want to say hi, guys. Hope your day's going well. And Marissa's literally looking right in front of me and just shaking her head. But just kind of wanted to do a little, hey, hope you guys are enjoying this podcast. This is dope, right? Like, Mark literally dropped so much knowledge, and he's about to drop so much more. So continue enjoying the podcast. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you give it a rating or give a like on this YouTube video. And yeah, all right, peace, guys.
Wow.
Oh yeah, but I think that's true too. Like, we noticed, literally, our personal health would be kind of put on the back burner.
Yeah.
Like, especially when we first started, because we're still relatively new. We just started back since July of last year officially, and like, it was kind of hard because you have so much things you have to juggle. And we kind of put our own personal health like on the back burner because like, oh, we need to find new clients, we need to get new jobs,
meet more people,
we need to basically make enough money to pay rent. So we had like all these thoughts, and like we were both biology majors in college, man. So we didn't really know anything about business or anything like that. Like, so we had to figure out how even money works, like how to save and how to invest in certain equipment. So with all that stuff, it was kind of hard to also try to keep our personal health in check. And starting of this year, I've actually done a pretty decent job, like going to the gym and stuff like that.
I need to get better at it for sure.
But we realized that like we definitely do need to incorporate that more into our daily routine. Because whenever I do go to the gym, it's kind of like that mental block too. You're like, oh, I don't want to go, but like when you go, after you go, you feel
so much better.
You feel so good, and like, personally for me, I feel so much calmer. I'm like, all right, I did that workout. It was a decent workout. Now I can handle whatever gets thrown my way that day. So that's pretty dope.
Mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, I love that. And like, you know, one more thing I can note is like, dude, what I've learned, man, on my journey is that, you know, like all these different sorts of like, you know, quote unquote, like self-care routines, like going to the gym, like eating healthy, like meditating, like doing yoga, like journaling, like, you know, whatever the 1,000 things that we know we should be doing are, you know, when you're in times of like distress or in crisis or in struggle or adversity, dude, that is the time to go 110% on those things. Because, you know, what I've learned is like, if you can, no matter what kind of a situation it is you're on, like horrible things happen to people all the time. And it's like, if you can take care of yourself and get rid of, you know, basically get out of your own way for the rest of the day, you're going to be so much better equipped to handle whatever situation, whatever kind of money, family, relationship problem that is like the main thing, quote unquote, that's going on in your life. It's like, that is the time to go 130% on those things. Like, that is exactly the time. And it's like, if everything's going great in your life, like, okay, you know, maybe, you know, don't necessarily do all of the different sorts of activities, but it's like, when you know, like there's like a Zen proverb, there's like a Buddhist proverb that says, you know, if you think you don't have time to sit down and meditate for 15 minutes, you should sit down and meditate for 20 minutes. And basically what it's saying is like, all these different sorts of activities that we do, they actually give us more time. And it's like, if you're sitting in a place of laziness or being in the morning, not wanting to do things, like, you're putting yourself in your own way for the rest of the day. You know, and whatever kind of scenario, whether that's at work or if your family needs you, if there's like a tough situation. So, you know, I think you've got to definitely, you know, fill your own cup up first and then let it pour onto others.
Wow.
Mark.
There's just so much coconut fire happening throughout this whole conversation.
Like life is just crazy, bro. Like literally, we just thoroughly enjoy like right now this moment with you, just talking to you, bro, listening to your like knowledge. Just like honestly, bro, from the bottom of both our hearts, Hey, just thank you so much, man. Like, this is dope.
Yes.
Dang.
Thank you guys.
That's wild.
You guys are great hosts.
Thank you. We tried.
Thank you. We're trying. Like, this was our first like phone call interview / podcast, so we were like freaking out.
You're like, oh my gosh, it's almost time. What am I gonna say?
But,
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad I could be that for you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, man.
That's
Appreciate
awesome.
that. Well, Mark, is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners or to our community here?
Or to the world.
Or to the world?
Yeah, eat more coconuts.
Yes! Yes! We did not tell him to say that.
That is perfect, bro. Appreciate it.
So great.
Dang, Mark. Well, hopefully one day our paths do cross and we can like actually like, shake your hand and like meet you in person. That'd be pretty dope. But until then, man.
Where did you guys say? Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. We're based out here in Tampa, Florida.
That's awesome. I was in Florida last week.
What?
Next time.
Dang. Wait, so where are you based out right now?
Boston.
Boston. Okay.
Okay.
All right, cool. Maybe
All right,
we'll take a trip over there and say what's up, or some vice versa. Either way.
Yeah, we're up in Jersey every now and again.
Yeah.
I still got family up there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, yeah,
yeah.
man.
I mean, I coconuts are my favorite fruit.
Dude, literally, we have a coconut right here on the table.
We'll have to bring you one.
Yeah, we'll definitely we got you, bro. We got you.
That's awesome.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much, man.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and just keep on grinding, bro. Good luck to you. Keep on doing it.
100%, guys. Thank you so much. This was really phenomenal. Let me know if I can help you guys out in any way, and please be in touch.
Definitely,
Will do, for sure.
Same here, man. Same here.
Awesome. Take care.
All right,
peace.
bye.
Wow.
That was freaking lit. Oh my gosh, there's so much knowledge in that. Like,
shit.
he's only 21 years old.
I feel like I was talking to like Gary Vee, basically.
Yeah.
In a way, it was pretty dope.
He's just so. I don't even know what the word is.
Dude, all right. So literally, this is how it happened, guys. I was subbing, and just I had some time, so like I didn't want to like be at school anyway. So I was like super fired up.
He had some time.
I was super fired up on the social media platforms, just going crazy.
On Twitter mainly.
Because I was like, we're starting to like get into all of them.
I kept getting like notifications and like what's going on.
So I was just going off on Twitter, and then I saw a post that Gary Vee posted, and I saw him comment. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And he said something about podcasts. I'm like, that's dope. So then I reached out to him. I'm like, oh, what's up, man? And basically that's how it started. And then literally we're like, hey, can we like set up a time to do a phone call / podcast? He's like, yeah, sure. And that was like 2 weeks ago. It's crazy because people want like instant gratification right then and there.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, I want something, I want it now. But like in this type of game / life, you have to be patient. You have to plant seeds everywhere you go. And then some of them are going to grow into something cool like this, which is dope. And then some of them take a little bit longer. But literally, they all grow at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to keep on planting seeds and not just like focus on that seed to grow. Because if you keep on looking for it to grow.
Don't plant just one seed and then watch it. And hope a tree sprouts in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, keep going.
So that was crazy.
That was freaking lit. He was dope AF.
Hey guys, Roberto Guido here. So just realized that after the podcast, we were so like just thrown away and just like blown away from the podcast we had with Mark that we didn't even have an outro. So this is just me making an outro real quick. Thank you so much for watching, and let us know what was your favorite part of the podcast. And it is currently 11:55 p.m. It's kind of late. Yeah. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace. Before we end this podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to EV47. He's the one that made the beat for the beginning and end of this podcast, so you should definitely check him out because he's dope. And yeah, peace.
Yes.